Chris, perfect timing because it is indeed my privilege, my honor, my pleasure to welcome the 55th governor in the state of New Jersey's history, who appropriately left a pivotal time in his campaign for the presidency to do the right thing and to come back home. He officially declared a state of emergency last night. We had a moment to chat briefly last night, and as he has always done for us, he has always been accessible, and we thank him for that. My good friend, Governor Chris Christie, joins us now. Mr. President, Mr. Governor, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Harry. How are you today?
Very well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Out on the roads here in New Jersey and starting to head towards the southern part of our state.
Well, your job on behalf of 9 million people, give or take two, is to do everything you can to keep things safe, to keep things going. What's your assessment of how we've endured the first wave of a two-wave major storm event?
So far, so good, Harry. I mean, I think, you're riding on the roadways. The roadways are snow-covered, but they're passable for emergency vehicles. And I'm very happy to hear, and I hope your listeners follow this advice, that people are staying off the roads. It helps our plows be able to get the job done that they need to get done. And snow's coming down pretty heavily, so we need to make sure we stay on top of it. The biggest problem I think we have at the moment, Harry, is power outages. We have about 80,000 right now statewide, and they're concentrated about 40,000 where your broadcast area is in the southern part of our state on the shore, and then about 40,000 in the central part of the state. The northern part of the state has not been experiencing anything but kind of spotty outages so far, although they're on the tail end of the storm. So I'm concerned about that. We're keeping an eye on flooding, but I don't have a major concern about that at the moment. We'll see how we survive tonight's high tide. But so far that we've gone through the first high tide, we've had some street flooding in some places, but nothing that would necessitate evacuation or would cause any major property damage.
As America's governor and the governor of New Jersey, you've gone through, I'm not going to use the term, you've done this rodeo before, because you don't take anything like this lightly, because it is a significant event and it's going to happen pretty heavy duty over the course of 2 straight days. So the electrical grids have to hold up, trees are coming down, all the stuff You've been through the derecho, you've been through Superstorm Hurricane Sandy. So from just a preparedness standpoint, talk to us for a little bit, Governor, about your comfort in your team, in your preparation, and in your programs and implementation.
We feel really good, Harry. Just to give some perspective to everybody, this is my 17th snow emergency in 6 years. And so we have dealt with a lot of inclement weather, putting aside Hurricane Irene, putting aside, obviously, Superstorm Sandy, just 17 snow emergencies. And so our team is very, very well equipped and ready to go. For instance, the Department of Transportation has 3,800 pieces of equipment out on the roadway. We have 228,000 tons of salt ready to go. And we started working on the roads Wednesday night, brining them, getting them ready so that when you actually go through with the plows now, it makes it easier to bring that snow up and off of it. And so we feel very good about that. The BPU is working very closely with Atlantic City Electric, with the JCP&L, PSE&G. The winds are too much right now for us to send any crews out to start to restore power. We want our utility folks to be safe. But as soon as those winds are under a certain amount, which should be later tonight, we will then be able to send crews out to start to restore power to those who've lost it.
Governor Christie, I think this is important to address this, and I always knew if you felt that you needed to come back, of course you would. If you were confident, I was able to share with our listeners on Early in the Morning in WPG, Town Square Media, as you know, that you had held a meeting with your cabinet the night before, that you were on the job. I've often said you can chew gum, you can, walk, you can talk, and you can do that all at the same time. And whether you're president or you're governor, it's to me, it's not so much where you are, it's what you're doing. But I also knew that as circumstances, changed, that you would gauge and decide whether you would stay. Obviously, what you're doing is very important, but your job as governor of New Jersey is your first priority. And so you made the decision to come home. What went into your decision about whether you would stay or whether you would come back?
It was all about the conditions on the ground here in New Jersey, Harry. I have complete faith in my team that they were prepared and ready to go. But, I don't want to be derogatory to our weathermen, but they don't always get it right.
Amen, brother.
Right? You might remember last winter they were predicting 2.5 to 3 feet of snow in the northern part of the state in January of last year. Governor Cuomo and I closed MTA, NJ Transit, and all of the Hudson River crossings, and we wound up getting 3 inches of snow. And mindful of that, I said up in New Hampshire, I had no plans to come home unless circumstances warranted, and I would continue to monitor it. So I started the calls in New Hampshire on Wednesday night, did a number of them on Thursday, and then again 2 more on Friday morning. And by 11 o'clock Friday morning, I was convinced from talking to the National Weather Service that this was going to be a significant snow event in New Jersey. And once I knew it was going to be a significant snow event, there was no choice. I was coming home. And so, I came home. I got here before the first flake of snow hit the ground in New Jersey, met with the cabinet again, held an event last night at about 8:15 or so up in Newark. And I was supposed to fly home from New Hampshire, but the flights were canceled, so we had to drive home from New Hampshire. And got here, to be able to, take care of what's going on. And, I'll be here all day today. We'll make an assessment tomorrow morning about whether, I need to stay here tomorrow morning or whether I can go back up to New Hampshire. But the folks who are listening should know this, that there are certain aspects of the media who always want to be critical. They criticized Governor Cuomo and I when we closed the Hudson River crossings last year, and then it turned out not to happen. They'll criticize you whether you act too slowly. Everyone's a Monday morning quarterback on this, but I've been through 17 of them now. So I knew if it was a significant storm event, I was going to be home. And that's where I am. The good news for me, Harry, is the First Lady is in New Hampshire.
There you go.
She's there with me.
That's a secret weapon.
That's right. She's doing my events today, so I suspect my poll numbers will go up markedly with me absent and her there.
Oh,
so,
this is big. This is breaking news. I love it.
She's doing 2 town hall meetings today for me. She's going to be working the town hall circuit for me up in New Hampshire, and I'm going to be doing my job here in New Jersey, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
My governor, I think I was going to say, my governor, I think you're going to be proud of me. I can do basic math. You are the first governor of New Jersey since 1912. So we're looking at 104 years since a governor of New Jersey has run for president. He won, by the way, as you know, 2 terms. And what has this experience been like, being a candidate for president, being on that big stage that you've earned your way onto, still running the state, still having to deal with an emergency like this, like a Winter Storm Jonas? Give our listeners an idea of what this experience at multiple levels has been like for you.
It's an extraordinary experience. First of all, I feel like an incredibly lucky guy to be governor of New Jersey and then have the opportunity to run for president of the United States. And when you stand on that stage for those debates, or you're in a town hall in New Hampshire and folks are asking you about the big issues that confront America and the world, it's an extraordinary thing, Harry, and I feel incredibly fortunate, and I'm grateful to the people of New Jersey for giving me the opportunity to do this. And I'm going to continue to work really hard. And, it's a jumbled mess up there in New Hampshire and Iowa. No one knows really what's going to happen. And so we're just going to keep working hard and see where everything lands on February 1st and on February 9th. But doing my job has always been my first priority. And so you continue to work each and every day. You've got this. I heard you talking about a smartphone with a gentleman before I got up there. When you have a smartphone that you're carrying all the time and a great staff, you are working all the time as governor in between the times when you're on your feet campaigning for president. And so, it's a great opportunity. Is it a lot of work? It sure is, but I would have it no other way.
Is New Hampshire is it your firewall? Is it your everything? People, I'm sure, are curious, the political junkies. I'm Captain Obvious here, but how big is New Hampshire for Governor Chris Christie for president?
It's enormous, and it's enormous for all of us. I mean, listen, if you're John Kasich or Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio or Chris Christie, New Hampshire is enormous. And all 4 of us are bunched together now in second place in a statistical tie with each other. And so this is going to be a real battle in the last 2 weeks to see who wins over the hearts and minds of the people in New Hampshire. Now, no one's been to the state more than I have. No one's spent more days than I've spent there. In the last 2 weekends, we've hit 23,000 doors in New Hampshire. in 2 weekends, all with volunteers from New Hampshire and New Jersey who are helping us to run for president. And so we're putting an enormous effort in up there. And I think no matter who you are in this race, if you don't do well in Iowa or New Hampshire, that's a real problem.
Here's a list, Governor, that I think you've objectively made. This is from such a wide spectrum of observation, not just from a friend like me, because I'm not going to give up on you, but from everybody in the national media. When they get, like, whether it's Brett Baer and those guys on Fox News, which, we carry here at the top of every hour. That was them there that we cut off for you. We see the game of, like, casino that they play, and they each get $100 worth of chips. So Donald gets some chips, and Ted Cruz gets a couple chips, and Rubio gets a couple chips. Christie always is in there getting chips in that game, because I think what the people that understand the way that the math of this works, you were the 14th Republican to get into this race. And we're watching now, and I guess it got up as high as 15 maybe. Maybe you even know it's more than that, 16. I don't know, but it's at least 15. And you got in 14th. I remember that well because we did a nice interview together on Hurley in the Morning. And I remember thinking what's going to happen is some will drop out even before the first vote is cast, because it just will happen. They won't be viable. They're not going to make it to the big boy table like you did. It's just not going to happen. Then what's going to happen is we'll get very near to when the first votes will happen, and then multiple debates would have happened, and some more people will be gone. As this game of attrition happens, I think a lot of people with smart money believe that you are right there with a serious opportunity to grasp this thing. And I know you. I've known you before you were governor. You don't waste your time. You're in this thing, aren't you?
We are. And listen, it started off with 17 candidates for president on the Republican side. And, the fact is that Mary Pat and I were getting ready to do the walkthrough in the last debate, which is the time when they get you there before the debate, a few hours before the debate, to see where your podium is, to test your microphone, to get you comfortable with the stage and the lighting and all the rest of it. And as we were walking together, hand in hand, up onto the stage, I said to her, it started with 17, and tonight we're down to 7 on the stage. And after that debate, there were lots of national commentators who said, this is really now a 4-person race between Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Chris Christie. We'll see if the results bear that out come New Hampshire and Iowa. I think they will. And the fact is that it's quite a journey. And I think anybody who's counting us out at this point are mostly folks who have not watched our political career in New Jersey. They have not seen that we took on John Corzine in 2009 and got outspent 3-1 in a Democrat state and beat him. Didn't see the fact that we won 61% of the vote for re-election in a Democratic state and won lots of converts from the independent side and the Democratic side. These are the folks that are not having watched our careers. And we're going to continue to work really hard, and we're going to make our case. And I think there's no one who has a better operation in New Hampshire and no one who's better on our feet convincing voters than our campaign is. And that's the strength we have, and that's what we're going to try to get done. And
here's another thing that you know all too well because you study history and you know. Look how many surprises there have been in the early caucuses. I remember Rick Santorum, they were counting him like a joke. If they would have been playing by these goofy rules of today and counting people out before they have a chance to be counted in, I mean, he won Iowa. Huckabee wasn't supposed to win. He won because this is a finite number of people. And as you well know, Governor, but it's probably worth talking about for a moment, this isn't like just, hey, I'm going to leave my sporting contest because I want to go vote for Chris Christie. You go vote in this caucus thing, starting off with Iowa, you're committing hours. This is very, very different, and it is a very small number of people. So really, it's beyond just the polling data. It's about who has the best apparatus, the best ground game. So what we think we know could be very different within the next week, 8 days.
Well, let me tell you something else about that too, Harry. I mean, if you look at 2 polls that came out in New Hampshire last week, and let's take me out of it so that, I'm being more objective. There was one poll that came out, I think, on Tuesday that said that John Kasich was at 20% in New Hampshire. There's another poll that came out on Wednesday that had John Kasich at 6% in New Hampshire. So the fact is, how did someone lose 14 points in 24 hours?
Yeah, they didn't.
Or did he never gain them? And
right.
Here's what I'm finding, what I'm hearing from New Hampshire voters. And I'm hearing this from Iowans too, but even more from New Hampshire voters. They're saying to us, listen, we're tired of getting called. We are getting all kinds of phone calls all the time. We're getting 5 to 10 phone calls a night from pollsters and from campaigns, and we're tired of it. And a lot of times we're just not even answering the phone. Pollsters are finding it very, very difficult to be able to even get people on the phone. So I think we have less of an idea of what's going to happen, on February 9th in New Hampshire, February 1st in Iowa, even less of an idea of what's going to happen because, our people are just tired of answering pollsters, and they're not taking the calls, and as a result, we don't really know who the heck we're polling.
Governor, I know you have to go in just a moment, and I'm going to have you make a final comment on what you're going to be doing, with the storm conditions. As we open, we will close and keep our priorities where they belong. But I have to ask you this. What do you, because I haven't had a chance to ask you this since the last time we interviewed on air together, what do you think of the tenor of this campaign? Well, I'm speaking about the Republican side.
Well, listen, I think that it has deteriorated significantly since the first of the year. Up to the first of the year, I think everybody was kind of talking about their plans, their vision, and with the exception of Donald Trump, who I think just his personality is negative. Everyone else, I think, was doing really well. Since January 1st, I think you've seen Marco Rubio become the most negative person in this campaign. He's firing at everybody.
Hey, by the way, because I don't want you're not going to say this about yourself. Let me say it. How about the things he said about my friend, Governor Chris Christie? You were the greatest thing since the toaster, since spreadable butter. I mean, and then he does this disingenuous stuff. That is the sign of a desperate candidate, Governor. I'm just going to say it.
Well, Harry, I think you're right, and I think it hurts him because he not only shoots at me and says these things about me, he shoots at Jeb Bush, he shoots at John Kasich, he shoots at Ted Cruz. And after a while, people start to wonder, what are you for? And what are you going to do for our country? And so I think the tone has become very negative. I think Governor Bush has been pretty negative, too, although I think that, Senator Rubio has now eclipsed him on negativity. And now you see the fighting going back and forth between Senator Cruz and Donald Trump. We have been above the fray on this, and we really believe that you need to be focused on defeating Hillary Clinton. That's what we need to be focused on as a party, and we weaken everybody by these attacks. And so I was really upbeat about the tone of the campaign during all of 2015. But boy, once this calendar turned to 2016, man, oh man, it's gotten very negative. But I've been through this before.
Yep.
No one was more negative than John Corzine. And the fact is that you have to have guts and you endure it. And that's what you do. And you keep pushing your message out there, which is what we did in 2009 and what we're doing in 2016.
Let me squeeze in two things, and I promise, I've already broken my word. I'm 2 minutes over time, and I'm risking my friendship with the governor by doing this. But I think it's important for people to hear this. I'm sure this is not lost on you. After each debate, your numbers spike up. And they spike up overall, nationwide, and they spike up in the state of New Hampshire in particular, whereas some of the other candidates after the debates, their numbers go down because they're almost invisible, and yet you command a presence and you have achieved. I think a lot of people have said this. A lot of people smarter than me have said it at the national level. You have had an outstanding debate season. What do you attribute that to?
I think three things. First, I actually listen to the questions and answer them, unlike some other folks who don't, and answer the questions that they feel like they want to answer. I think secondly, I am not being negative against my adversaries. I'm staying above that and talking about Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, and that's what I think our Republican primary voters are really focused on. And third, I think that I try to be myself. And over time, Harry, I think you've seen that here in New Jersey. I don't try to be anybody else other than who I am. And I use the language I use. I don't try to do anything differently. And the fact is that I think people can relate to me. They can relate to the things I have to say and how I talk about the problems that they're facing as a family, in their careers, in their personal lives, in our country. So I think those are the three factors that have helped us to do as well as we've done in the debates. And I can guarantee you this. We're not changing our strategy between now and the next debate, which is this coming Thursday in Des Moines, Iowa.
Governor, I know you have to go. I have to squeeze this in because this is the question I've always wanted to ask you at this point of the campaign. Whether it was with the backdrop of Ronald Reagan's Air Force One or all of these amazing opportunities that you have experienced, as it's such a rare experience for anyone to be a legitimate, high-ranking candidate to be the next president of the United States. And you are the governor of the state of New Jersey, the most densely populated state at the same time. Even though obviously people wanted you, I even wanted you to back in 2012 to give it a go, you opted against that. That's not really the question. That's just a little sidebar. The question is, what has this experience been like, even though you are prepared and obviously much more prepared this time than you would have been in 2012, even being prepared? And they say no one's really prepared to be president until you are the president. But you are, in my estimation, because of your pedigree, your background as U.S. attorney, what you've gone through as governor, and as this candidate for the presidency, you are qualified. There's no doubt in my mind to be president. You'd be a great president. You'd be a great commander-in-chief. You'd be a great commander-in-chief that would defeat ISIS. Our allies would love us again. Our enemies would fear us again. We really do need Chris Christie. But having said that, is this still surreal? You're getting welcomed out onto these stages, walked out there, and I mean, it's got to be surreal.
Oh, it sure is. And I'll tell you, Harry, one of the things that has been the most gratifying is to watch the reaction of my wife and our children. We have done this as a family, as a team. And Andrew, our oldest son, who's a senior at Princeton, he's been at every one of the debates. And Mary Pat obviously has been at every one of the debates. Our daughter Sarah's been to a few of them. Patrick's been to one. Bridget's coming to her first, our 12-year-old in New Hampshire on February 6th. And so, sharing this with my family has been something that's made it even more surreal. For us as a family to be going through this is extraordinary. And on the flip side of it, it is the most relentless thing I've ever done in my life. No matter what, Harry, no matter how hard you work, 15, 16-hour days, there's always more phone calls to make, more phone calls to take, more people to see, and it is relentless. And I think the relentless nature of it is part of what prepares you for the presidency itself, which is a relentlessly difficult position. And so, listen, I feel incredibly fortunate to have the opportunity to do this. I feel very fortunate about where we're positioned right now. We're going to work hard to be positioned even better. And I can't wait for July to go to Cleveland and stand on that stage and accept the nomination of my party for President of the United States.
Governor, what an honor. This is just an honor, and on behalf of all of our listeners, what a pleasure to have this one-on-one that thousands are eavesdropping on at the same time. Obviously, we continue to wish you the very best. And as you close, give our citizens an idea of your closing thoughts about the current Storm Jonas situation.
Well, listen, I want everybody. I am on the roads right now. I'm on route Interstate 287 right now in southern Somerset County, heading towards Middlesex County. And the conditions are really, really difficult. It's very difficult to see probably past a quarter of a mile or so on the roads. And so no one go out on the roads, please. It's dangerous, and there's no need for you to be out there. I assume yesterday everyone went to the supermarket, got their food, got their water, got the things they need. Let's stay inside, listen to the storm updates with Harry Hurley, get a cup of hot chocolate or a cup of coffee and relax. It's a Saturday, and leave the work to us. That's what you hired me to do. That's what you elected me to do. We're out here on the roads making sure that things get done the right way, and we want you to stay safe and stay warm and stay with your families. So please do that. I'll do my job, and then we'll be ready to hit the campaign trail again tomorrow or the next day in New Hampshire.
Governor, thanks so much. My colleague Chris Coleman just wants to say hello.
Governor, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for taking time out of your very busy day to be with us here at WPG. I do have one lighthearted question to ask you, if I can. Does Governor Christie buy milk and bread for snowstorms?
I did not, because last night I was coming directly from New Hampshire to the office. And so we did not do any of that shopping, and Mary Pat is up, as I said, up in New Hampshire. So our two youngest children were the ones who took care of business. They went with their babysitter to the supermarket, got all the staples, and 15-year-old Patrick and 12-year-old Bridget stocked the house. And so they did the job for us for this storm. But in the past, have I done it? You bet I have. And I get some very interesting looks at the local supermarket when I'm in there, picking up the bread and the milk and the other things you need for kids who seem to like waffles very much when it's snowing. So we got to make sure we get the butter and the syrup as well.
Right.
Awesome stuff. Governor, I know you have to run. Please give the First Lady my best, Mary Pat.
Absolutely.
And let's stay close and very, very proud of how you've represented the brand.
Well, we'll try to continue to check in with you, Harry, and make sure that we keep your listeners informed, as I know you'll do over the course of the hours to come.
Thank you, Governor Christie. Be
Governor,
well, be safe.
You, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
See you, sir.